On today's show, some issues for the Charlotte Hornets, waiving former first-round draft pick Kai Jones after some concerning behavior on social media, and then Miles Bridges turning himself in and subsequently being released after having a warrant posted, and then later showing up at Hornets practice like nothing happened. Why the Hornets and NBA have made certain decisions regarding Miles Bridges, and then where does all of this leave Brandon Miller, the Hornets' #2 overall pick from this past season, expectations for his rookie year, and so much more. It's all coming up right here at Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Look, you shouldn't have to worry when you're trying to buy tickets to the next big event that you're planning on attending. I know I've had problems in the past with other ticketing apps where I go, through the whole checkout process and I'm getting right at the end and I go to punch in my information and it all disappears or there's errors and it can be a really clunky, frustrating experience. That's not the case with Game Time. Game Time is incredibly easy to use, and look, they've got last minute tickets, flash deals, all sorts of stuff that you want to be able to take advantage of in the app. It's easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, whether it's sports, music, comedy shows, theater events. They have it all with Game Time. You get views from all the seats in the venue, so you know exactly the type of bang that you're getting for the buck that you are spending. Lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and so much more. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Joining us now is the host of Locked On Hornets, Walker Mehl, who you can track down wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Hornets. Now, Walker, a couple different things going on with a couple guys out in Charlotte. Let's start with Miles Bridges first, who apparently reportedly turned himself in after a warrant was issued due to accusations of throwing billiard balls at his ex-girlfriend's vehicle while the children were inside it, smashing the windshield and leaving dents in the car, according to the warrant issued. So first, how would you just assess the way that the Hornets and NBA have decided to handle the Bridges situation, and how does this latest reporting impact Bridges and the Hornets going into this season?
Oh, yeah. Loaded, because, okay, so if you're asking how the Hornets handled it the first go-around, I would not have brought Miles Bridges back this season based off what we saw, based off of, 30-game suspension. I understand the 20 games being tied in to hurt him monetarily more so than 30-game suspension, 20 games having already been served, 10 games he'll miss this upcoming season. The reason they did that was to hurt him monetarily, even if it would just seem more logical to just suspend him 10 games with 20 having already been served. But I understand some of that idea. Still, it didn't seem as harsh a punishment as I feel like the NBA should have given him. With the Charlotte Hornets bringing him back on the qualifying offer, $7.9 million qualifying offer, it's not anything that I would have done if you're the Charlotte Hornets. But they did, and Jackson, it felt like we were starting to move on and talk a little bit more about what was on the product, and then on the floor, the product that was on the floor. And then we saw this summons come in for an arrest, the arrest warrant that apparently had been out since January 2nd. But we didn't know about it in the public eye until it was reported by the WSOC here in town Wednesday of last week. And once Miles Bridges turned himself in, he got out on $1,000 bond. That same day, he posted a picture of him at Hornets practice. And then once media was available there, they saw Miles Bridges getting some shots up. And it doesn't seem like that's the smart move for the Charlotte Hornets to put him out there, allow him to practice with the team while they're trying to gather more information. So to me, it doesn't seem like the Charlotte Hornets are handling this the correct way. And the NBA coming down with a 30-game suspension with him having pled no contest. If he would have pled guilty, then you would have been in direct violation of some direct words of the collective bargaining agreement. So if he would have pled guilty, then I don't even know if he would have been playing this year. But it doesn't seem like it's the right way for the NBA or the Charlotte Hornets to handle this, especially now that we have more on our hands after what we had this past week reported.
And obviously, you're going to keep us up to date on exactly how that situation progresses and how the Hornets and NBA decide to handle Miles Bridges even further going into this season as more reporting becomes available on that front. But then also on the other side of things, it's not just Miles Bridges. Kai Jones, highly touted prospect, Kai Jones being just waived by the Charlotte Hornets. Walk us through, Walker, what exactly happened here with Kai Jones and kind of his expedited fall from grace, if you will.
All right, so I'm actually not one that has an Instagram, Jackson. I have a Twitter. I am not on social media a ton, but Twitter, of course, for our line of work, you got to have one, and Twitter is my vice, okay? So that's what I'm on. But apparently Kai Jones had been going a little crazy on Instagram, and at least, I shouldn't say crazy. That's actually not what I should be saying. But on Instagram, we saw his social media behavior get a little more bizarre, and certainly something we hadn't seen before it got public about a couple weeks later. And really the video that went viral was the one where he's dancing, sweating, talking gibberish, very hard to understand what he was discussing. But when you focused in, it was, I don't think the Hornets are going to trade me. They're very high on me. If they do, I'll have my buy, whatever, right? It was really weird. And it just didn't stop, Jackson. Like, we kept getting video after video after video to the point where the Hornets released a statement saying they're not going to welcome him to Hornets Media Day. He's going to be out. Then Kai Jones, after having missed a few practices, was not going to be there for training camp. And then they decided to release him Wednesday of last week, the same day that the Miles Bridges news came in, by the way. Miles Bridges news actually came in about a couple of hours after they officially released the Kai Jones waive. So with Kai Jones, what happened there? It was somebody that just never was able to figure it all out on the basketball court in the first 2 years. This is somebody that was always going to be a project. As soon as they drafted him, we knew that it might even be 3 years because for him to figure it out on the floor. But when you're close to 7 feet, you're that athletic, you have those kinds of skills that, of course, they took a shot. They traded back up in the first round to go get him. And it just we never really saw the fruits of that in the first 2 seasons. It didn't look like he was even making any progress. And so once you had this bizarre behavior on social media, then the Hornets decided to cut ties. There was also the report that his agency, Clutch Agency, dropped him. And now who knows what's going to happen with Kai. Hopefully the best for him. Hopefully he figures out whatever it is he needs to figure out and play basketball again or do something else if that's what makes him happy. But it does seem like he's going through some trouble right now.
A really unfortunate turn of events for a guy who was, such a highly touted prospect coming out of college. Now, it's not all bad in Charlotte. Had to get a couple of the bad things out of the way from the top, but an area of hope and some optimism for Charlotte Hornets fans. Brandon Miller, who's gotten his first handful of preseason action underway with the Charlotte Hornets. He came off the bench in the first game, started the last couple. Walker, take us through what we're seeing out of Brandon Miller so far through these first couple preseason games and how it's going to lead into some of the expectations for Brandon Miller this season.
Well, look, I mean, the vibes were great at Hornets Media Day, unlike what they were a year ago when we were coming in with Miles Bridges being out for, indefinitely at that point, would not come back for the entire year, as we would come to know. So everything was really dark. And this year, for, good or bad, everybody was excited because Brandon Miller, you had your second overall pick. LaMelo Ball is feeling healthy. Everybody had been talking about how well Gordon Hayward looked, how good he looked in the offseason. Same thing with Terry Rozier, a couple of vets that were ready to roll this year. And Brandon Miller was a big reason for that. Jackson, if you look at Brandon Miller, it's not anybody that's going to force the issue. He's going to take what is given to him. If there's somebody that jumps in front of him on a drive, he's going to kick it right back out. He's going to fill his spot exactly how you want him to. He had a really fun dunk a couple of nights ago that was called back because of the charge circle, but still, it was an amazing play from Brandon Miller. We got a really fun play from him tonight in their preseason game against Oklahoma City. The three ball's not falling for him right now in preseason, but the 2-point field goals are. And that's what's great, because it's actually somebody that we were a little worried about. If you had worries about Brandon Miller, it was about his ability to finish at the rim or lack thereof. The mid-range game has been on full display this preseason, which the way that Alabama runs their offense, he just didn't shoot many, right? It was all at the rim, getting the free throw line and 3-point shots. He's been very, very good. And the hot debate this summer was, who should they take, Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller? Scoot's been very good in Portland. We know that. We've seen him through a few preseason games. But Brandon, it's not going to be one of these where, oh my God, Brandon is so much worse. He's a total bust. What did we do here in Charlotte? Brandon Miller is not going to be a bad basketball player. Steve Clifford told you that he's going to actually contribute right away. He's going to play a significant role in his first season. So we're all pretty excited about Brandon Miller.
Does that significant role mean to you starting or coming off the bench?
Well, so the Miles Bridges situation, I don't know if Miles is going to play. That certainly plays a role into whether Brandon does. He did start the last couple of games in preseason because Miles is not available. And that was true. Miles Bridges was not available for the preseason even before this latest served now arrest warrant and summons that took place last week. But because Miles wasn't available and Gordon Hayward had foot soreness, Steve Clifford tells us that it's just precautionary, that he would be ready to go in the regular season. We'll see. We'll knock on wood. But because of that Brandon Miller started. I don't think he's going to start. I think he's going to come off the bench. I think your front court is going to, let's say Miles is out. Let's just go based off the first 10 games of this season where Miles is ineligible. I still think it'll be Gordon at the 3, PJ Washington at the 4. If Miles does come back and he is eligible after the first 10 games of this season, I still don't think it'll be Brandon coming back. If he isn't, then that could make things interesting. Maybe you have a situation where you want Gordon Hayward to rest a little bit more. You want to save him as you get deeper into the season. We all know about the rookie wall. So that's going to be fascinating to see what Steve Clifford does in that scenario if Miles does not come back. But I do think that for the most part, we'll see Gordon Hayward at the 3, PJ Washington at the 4, and Mark Williams to complete the front court at the starting 5.
How will the Charlotte Hornets continue to navigate the Miles Bridges situation, and what more can we expect from Brandon Miller's rookie season? You're going to have us covered for all of that and more over at Locked On Hornets. Walker, I appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Always fun.